Welcome back to my channel. It is time for another weekly reset and homemade kitchen restock. This always starts out by coming down to my basement and pulling some things out of the freezer and from our canning room, kind of like our own little grocery store here in our basement, to grab what I need to get started on prepping for the week. Now, if you've watched these videos before, you've likely seen me do this, and that is just cooking a whole chicken from frozen in the Instant Pot. I don't season it or anything. I keep this really plain. That way I can use it in multiple different ways. So I just got a whole chicken into my Instant Pot, added about a cup of filtered water, get the lid on there, and I will cook this from frozen for about 10 minutes per pound on high pressure, and then I'll just let that naturally release, and that will help us just stock up on some easy protein to use in different recipes throughout the week. Now, something that I have been loving lately is chia pudding. I feel like this is something that I used to enjoy a ton and I have not really been into lately, but I had some chia seeds that I needed to get used up, and I've really been enjoying this. So my base recipe for chia pudding is a half cup of either yogurt or milk. The yogurt will make a little bit thicker of a chia pudding, to 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, and then I'll just add in a little bit of vanilla extract and some cinnamon. Keep it really simple. I don't even add any sweetener to this, but you could add some maple syrup or some honey. But what I'll typically do is top it off with frozen berries, and I find that sweet enough. These are great to have on hand. The yogurt is going to add a little bit of protein. The chia seeds are high in fiber, and it makes for a really filling snack or even a quick breakfast to have on hand. This week I also made a chickpea salad to have on hand to add to our lunches. Now for this, I just grabbed 2 cans of home canned chickpeas from our canning room, and I drained those off, got them rinsed really well, and I kept this really simple just because I didn't have a whole lot on hand. So this is a great thing to do with either onions and diced cucumbers or bell peppers. You can really do whatever veggies that you want, but I kept this really simple with just some diced red onion as well as some shredded carrot. Now, I shredded quite a lot of carrots because I wanted to also add some shredded carrots to a chicken salad that I'll be making later in this video. So I ended up using about half of these carrots for the chickpea salad. And then to dress this, I kept it, again, really simple, just a little bit of olive oil, some red wine vinegar, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and a little bit of Italian seasoning. And as this sits in the fridge and the chickpeas kind of marinate in that dressing, it just gets better and better as it sits throughout the week. Once the Instant Pot had come down from pressure, I removed the lid just to allow that to cool a little bit so that it would be ready to go when it was time to shred the chicken. And I got started on making some smoothies. So this is something that I really love to do. While smoothies are not labor intensive to make at all, it's a really quick option. I like having some ready to go in the freezer so we can just grab one out of the fridge and have a quick smoothie on hand. So for this batch, I used coconut milk as the base. So I used a full can of whole fat coconut milk. And then what I do is I will typically add some filtered water as well, just to up the liquid without increasing the fat too much. And I added a full bag of frozen cherries today. Usually I'll do a mix of different fruits, but cherries are what I had on hand. I also added in some bee pollen and some collagen peptides for protein. So I kind of just think about how many jars of smoothie I'll get and how much protein I want in them. So I figured I would get 5 pints of smoothies to put into the freezer. So I did 10 scoops of collagen so that each would have about 2 scoops. Once I had the smoothie all blended up, I filled my wide mouth pint jars to about 1.5 inches of headspace. You do want to make sure that you have at least 1 inch of headspace when you're freezing in wide mouth jars like this, and that's because the smoothie is going to expand as it freezes. That is another reason why you don't want to use regular mouth jars. You're more likely to see glass break in those. So got some lids on those and popped those into the freezer so they'd be ready to go when we need them. Another thing that I really like to prep are egg bites because we typically have quite a few eggs on hand and they're a great high protein option that are easy to just grab as we need them. So I will do this a variety of ways. Sometimes I'll blend cottage cheese into the eggs to increase the protein. Today I kept it really simple and I just used plain eggs that I whisked really well. So I will typically do 10 eggs to fill 12 muffin cups. So I am using my cast iron muffin tins. These are pretty new to me, so I'm still kind of seasoning them. So I greased them pretty well with some butter and then divided that egg mixture between the muffin cups. And then you can get really creative with however you want to flavor these. I'll typically just do whatever chopped veggies I have on hand, maybe some cheese, maybe some sort of meat. Today I did 6 with some diced cheddar cheese. Typically I would shred it, but the cheese grater was in the dishwasher. So I just chopped up a little bit of cheddar cheese and did some sausage that I had in the freezer as well, in 6 of them. And then for the other 6, I did some red onion, some sun-dried tomato, some spinach, and some feta cheese, and these turned out so delicious. Now these are totally fine, just pulled out of the fridge and eaten cold, but I will typically grab a couple and pop them into the toaster oven for a couple minutes and they reheat really well. So with our abundance of eggs, oftentimes I'm prepping things like hard-boiled eggs or soft or medium-boiled eggs. However, that can get a little bit boring after a while, so having these egg cups with a few different flavor variations is a great thing to have on hand. And I bake those at 375 for about 15 minutes until set. Once the chicken was cool enough to handle, I got that shredded. Some of this turned into a honey mustard chicken salad for us to grab from for easy lunches, and some just turned into plain shredded chicken that we can add into other meals. Once I had all that chicken shredded, I filled up the Instant Pot with some filtered water, got the lid on, and I cooked this for 4 hours at high pressure to make a very simple chicken broth. I didn't add any veggie scraps, salt, or anything to this today, just a very, very simple chicken broth. And we'll use this to cook different grains throughout the week to add a little bit of flavor and some nutrition. Back to the chicken salad. So this kind of came about because I was out of avocado oil and I was out of my homemade mayonnaise, and I do not personally love using olive oil for homemade mayonnaise. I find that the flavor is just too strong. So I made a honey mustard vinaigrette with some olive oil, some red wine vinegar, some of our honey from last year, which has really started to crystallize, as well as some salt, pepper, garlic powder, paprika, and some Dijon mustard. And this made a super flavorful honey mustard vinaigrette.